This is a presentation about Asperger's syndrome, which I made with my kids, and the title of it is Everybody is Different. So these are some ways that people can be different. Obviously, height, gender, age, hair, eye, skin color, religion, family background, names, etc., etc. If we didn't have these differences, we would all be zombie clones named Bob, and that would be not good. Sometimes the differences between people can be seen. They're very obvious. Other times, the differences also seen, but not so obvious. But most of the time, the differences between people are going to be a lot more subtle and not even seen at all. Like take me and my husband. My husband is a big burly fellow with a big handlebar mustache and a shaved head, but when a bat got into the house, he ran and screamed like a girl while I got the oven mitts because I was going to catch that thing and keep it. It was super cool. But the most important thing to remember is that because of all these differences, there's no such thing as normal. There's only typical, and even that can be pretty tricky to define. Take, for example, my hamster I had when I was a kid. Most kids you would expect to be very sad when a hamster dies, but that thing was evil, and I didn't care. I was happy when it died. So this brings us to Asperger's, which is a spectrum disorder, meaning that you can be a lot Asperger's or a little bit Asperger's, and the whole thing is on the autism spectrum disorder spectrum, which means that it's only part of a greater subset of conditions and disorders called autism, and so imagine that that dark bar is only part of one of those colors. This means that whatever I tell you about Asperger's is only going to be from one part of the gray scale and one part of the autism spectrum. But I can tell you a little bit about it because, remember these two? That one there with the short hair? That's me. Standing next to me is my twin sister, also has Asperger's. She has more Asperger's than I have less Asperger's. So, general rules we'll be talking about then. For example, sensitivity to stimuli. I can tell you from my own personal experience that I cannot change my own sheets because I have a foam mattress and oh my god, it's just the worst thing in the world to touch. I hate it. On the other hand, my daughter, who also has Asperger's, for a brief period during her toddler years would only eat foods that were white. Another thing that will typically be different about somebody with Asperger's is their emotional awareness. My daughter especially has this very strongly. Takes sometimes days for her to figure out how she feels about something. My sister and I there, it took us a couple of hours to figure out that we really weren't going to be mourning the hamster. And of course, we will have different interests and behaviors. What we're into, we're deeply into. When we're stressed out, we're going to do things we would never do. And sometimes we'll just do it because we want to. That looks familiar because me and my daughter, turns out both of us had a thing about jiving under desks when we were stressed out at school. It's the quickest way to a quiet, warm, safe place, which us Aspies really like. But it's really in the social stuff that you're going to notice how different an Aspie is. The lack of empathy, the nonverbal communication, little understanding about social rules, selective mutism, not good with change, don't like eye contact, stuff like that really sets us apart. This is a picture of my sister when the summer we were like 8 or 9 and she decided she had to wear like the scarf, mitten, and hats constantly in summertime, which was fine because we lived in the country, but then it came time to go back to school, and no matter how she tried to explain it to her, my mom couldn't make her understand that she could not wear those things anymore. I thought it was okay with them, but except for the fact that they were an ugly color. I just wanted them to be, you know, I wanted her to pick a different hat, mittens, and scarves, the cute ones, the pink ones, but she didn't get it at all. And yeah, imagine your kids showing up to school like that, they're going to stand out. Of course we're going to stand out already because of the verbal stuff, our excellent vocabulary, our very literal interpretation. My mom told me I had to make eye contact when I talked to people. This led me to stare people down like in a death glare, and that wasn't better. So if you know or you think you might be dealing with an Aspie, what can you do that will help things go a little more relatively smoothly? Number 1, be literal. Say what you mean what you say, do what you say you are going to do. Number 2, be blunt about what you want, about what you expect, and about what you are feeling. Number 3, don't lie to us. Not even a social lie. If we ask you what you think of our dress, we're just asking for information. Chances are we are not going to be offended by your honest answer. We will be offended if we hear that you actually hated it later. Number 4, know what you're talking about, because we're going to be really into it and you're going to need to practice your bluntness if you're not that into it. Number 5, don't take things personally. We can seem a little distant, we can overreact sometimes. It's not about you, it's not even really about us. And number 6, the most important, and the conclusion of my Asperger's presentation is, when we're upset, just leave us alone. It's about the processing of the emotions thing. We know that there can be this instinct people have to go and find out what's wrong and see if you can help and offer sympathy, but it feels like people asking you questions you cannot possibly answer. You don't know why you're upset yet. You don't know if you're even really all that upset, and it feels very invasive, and we just need that quiet, alone space under the desk time to figure out what's going on. So, especially if it's a kid, they're upset, just back off. Come at it later. Let them come to you. And that's my Asperger's presentation. Thank you very much.